Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Rainbow Park Baptist Church. I pray that you all have not been waiting for too long and that you should have received a couple things when you walked in this evening. A raffle ticket. Raise your hand if you didn't receive a raffle ticket. Amen. Most of you did. Those who did not, now if you're a member of Rainbow Park, I told them don't give you one. Amen. Amen. But you should have received a raffle ticket, but also you should have received a note card and a pen where you can write your questions. And about halfway through, we're going to collect those cards and we will read your questions to the panelists on this evening. Again, I welcome you to Rainbow Park Baptist Church. We are honored to have you here for our inaugural town hall called the Voices of DeKalb Town Hall. This is an opportunity for us to engage in meaningful dialogue about our community, its challenges, and its future. Before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge and thank our esteemed panelists who have graciously agreed to be here to share their expertise and insights with us. I'd also like to welcome community members, faith leaders, business owners, educators, and local officials who are here on tonight. We see that we do have a special guest that you all weren't expecting. We have a surprise. Sheriff Melody Maddox has joined us on this evening. We thank her as she is here representing law enforcement on this evening. I'll go ahead and say this right up front. We do know that many of you were expecting to see Chief Ramos here on today, but you can check the news media to see the recent events with that. I had the privilege of speaking with her a couple hours ago, and I told her that we thank her for her service, and our thoughts and prayers are with her during this time. Amen? Amen. Your presence shows the strength of our community and the importance of these conversations. For those who may not be familiar with Rainbow Park Baptist Church, our mission is simple. We develop leaders for God, and we do that by connecting people, impacting lives, and inspiring change. We believe that change begins with conversation, and conversation leads to action. We are committed to being a church that does not just exist inside the walls, but serves as a light and a resource for the entire community. Tonight is about fostering open dialogue, collaboration, and community well-being. We want to bridge the gap between residents and leadership, hear concerns, and discuss ways we can work together to build a stronger DeKalb County. We ask that tonight's discussion be respectful, engaging, and solution-driven. Dr. King, In his book, Where Do We Go From Here? Chaos or Community, he said these words: "We are now faced with the fact that tomorrow is today. We are confronted with the fierce urgency of now in this unfolding conundrum of life and history. There is such a thing as being too late. This is no time for apathy or complacency. This is a time for vigorous and positive action." So here's the overview of tonight's event. We will begin by introducing our panelists. I will then lead a moderated discussion with a set of prepared questions tailored to each leader. We will open the floor to the questions that you all have written on your note cards, and then we will close with some final remarks and encouragement for the ongoing community engagement. So, we are blessed to have a diverse and accomplished group of leaders with us this evening. Go ahead and give a round of applause for all of our panelists that are with us on today. I'm going to go down the line, and if you will, just let them know your name and the role that you play here in DeKalb County, starting with Judge Caroline Freeman, who's the Associate Judge of the Probate Court here in DeKalb County.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm Caroline Freeman. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm honored to have this opportunity, and I bring greetings from Chief Judge Bedelia C. Hargrove tonight. I'm the Associate Judge in the Probate Court of DeKalb County. I've had the honor of serving in that role for the past 3 years, but I've been on staff at the court since 2010.
Commissioner Massiah, our District 3 Commissioner here in DeKalb County.
Great evening. Pleasure to be here with you all. I am Nicole, Massiah, one of our newly elected commissioners out of 3 serving DeKalb County as a commissioner, and also having the honor to serve as a deputy presiding officer as well as chair of the PEX committee.
Dr. Gregory B. Levett, Sr., CEO and founder of Gregory B. Levett and Sons Funeral Home and Crematory Incorporated.
Thank you. Good evening to everyone. I think everyone knows who I am, so I don't think I need no formal introduction. I'm just glad to be here this evening. Thank you.
Sheriff Melody Maddox, I believe you are our first female sheriff here in DeKalb County.
I am.
Amen.
Thank you. I am. I'm on my second term, so I've been in office now for 5 years and serving the second term as sheriff, thanks to the voters of DeKalb County.
Yes, ma'am. Dr. Keith Jones.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Keith Jones. I'm currently the principal at DeKalb School of the Arts for the last 3 years. And I used to be the principal at Columbia Middle School right down the hill here for 9 years prior to accepting the position at DeKalb School of the Arts, and I'm here representing DeKalb County School District. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And y'all, my friend, Representative Omari Crawford, y'all, he just raced here from the Capitol downtown. They've had a long, busy day, but let us know who you are and the role you play in DeKalb County.
Thank you very much. I'm excited to be here. Good evening, everyone. And to say that it was a long day is putting it lightly. I started at 8 o'clock in the morning at the Capitol. We just finished going through a 115-page bill. So, nonetheless, I'm happy to be here. I'm Omari Crawford. I'm the state rep out of Georgia's 89th House District. Grew up in DeKalb County, and I've had the pleasure of working with everyone on this stage in some shape, form, or capacity. So I'm happy to see familiar faces. Thank you and welcome.
Again, let's give a round of applause for all of our panelists for joining us on this evening. Each of these individuals plays a key role in shaping the future of DeKalb County, and we are excited to hear their perspectives on tonight. So now let's dive into our discussion. I will be asking each of the panelists a few questions based on their area of expertise. Each panelist will have a couple of minutes to respond, and if one of the panelists references something that another panelist can chime in on, we will give them the opportunity to respond as well. Let us start with our District 3 Commissioner, Nicole Massiah. What are your top priorities for District 3 in 2025?
First to start is to make sure that we have the Office of District 3 completely and fully operational. As many of you know, our former commissioner ran for CEO, and that created a vacancy in March. So from March through December 3rd, when the runoff took place, we have had a vacancy for a District 3 county commissioner during that time. The office was vacant. We had absolutely no employees, and we had no budget. So coming in off the cusp, it is to make sure that we get our office operational. We have all of the employees that we need to be able to serve the constituents of District 3 in DeKalb County. We have now our chief of staff, who is amazing, and to be quite honest, was a beacon of institutional knowledge. And to be quite frank, coming off a special election, I wouldn't have had the opportunity to be able to do it without her. Secondly, we've recently hired our constituent services and community engagement manager this week. And we also intend to be able to get someone there in communications to be able to answer all of the questions, all of the concerns, and put forth a platform that will continue to grow and benefit District 3. So that's first and foremost. Would you like me to continue with the others, or?
Go ahead.
Okay, let's do this. All right. And then secondly, it is to work with, we're the legislative body of DeKalb County. And even though people have heard that before, they may not understand exactly what that means. We create legislation, right? Similar to Omari, over here, and the work that we have to do is to make sure that we're putting forth policies, resolutions that are gonna serve the folks. We don't always have complete control as to what that looks like, but we definitely have a vote. We have the opportunity to have a discussion with our colleagues in reference to that. So work with my colleagues to put forth legislation that's gonna benefit us. And of course, also working with the administration, with our CEO. And there are a number of initiatives that we have right here and now that we have to deal with even tomorrow, realizing is called as a special meeting. So we're dealing with the water rate crisis, if you will, and all of the needs related to that, needing repairs in terms of our infrastructure. But also, our CEO has put forth an agenda item related to public service and public safety. I see a number of folks that are on that task force, sitting right here in the audience presently. We have HB 581, homestead exemption, which I'm sure plenty of you guys have heard about and even attended some of the town halls related to and might have some questions. But we, as a commissioning and governing body or legislative governing body of DeKalb County, had to understand what that means and whether it's opting in or opting out, what that looks like in totality for the folks that we have the responsibility to serve. But then also we have economic development programs, particularly in DeKalb County, where it has been an issue to make sure that we have the type of projects, the type of programming, the type of support that we need. So as soon as we can get past the crisis and things that are immediately on the, or right before us, including 581, the budget and the water, is to make sure that we have what we need to build up DeKalb County and that it supports District 3 primarily and supports the constituents so they can enjoy the communities they live in, so they can spend money in the communities they live in, and that they can feel safe and spend time, right, in the communities they live in. So those are my long-winded, priorities. Thank you.
Thank you. Speaking of legislation, Representative Omari Crawford, what state-level initiatives will directly impact DeKalb this year?
Thank you, and I think it actually works very well that coming right after the commissioner to talk about what we do down at the State House, and really there is a really big symbiotic relationship of what we do at the Capitol and what can be done at the local level. What we have at the local level, at the state level, is called preemption. What we say down at the state capitol dictates what local governments can and cannot do. And so we have a good working relationship with our Board of Commissioners as well as our sheriff and our courts to figure out what it is that they want. I will talk about some of the joint things that we're working on, but let me tell you what I'm working on and how it will directly impact DeKalb County. My initiatives can be summarized in 3 things: healthcare, education, and safety. We'll start from safety and work our way backwards. I am working on legislation that is going to require gun owners Not saying that you cannot own a gun, but if you own a gun, to safely store your gun, because what we have seen in our state is a rise in accidental discharges that are either killing or injuring minors. Georgia is a very gun-heavy state. Again, we're not infringing upon your Second Amendment rights, but if you have a gun, make sure that it's safely stored. What we've also learned in DeKalb County is that there is a rise in car thefts, break-ins, where people are stealing guns from cars and using those guns to commit crimes. Right now, the city of Atlanta, all metro Atlanta, is second in guns being stolen from vehicles, only to Memphis. So that's safety. We want to make sure that, again, if you have a gun and it's in a car, keep it in a lockbox when you're not inside of that car, because we don't want your guns to be stolen and then used to commit subsequent crimes. Safety. Education. We're trying to do a few things of education, and I'm working on a few pieces of legislation right now. I think that they will receive hearings, favorable hearings. One would inform parents, students, and teachers of certain infectious diseases that can impact your children. One of them is sickle cell. Sickle cell is extremely prevalent in DeKalb County and Fulton County. We have about 13,000 people who have known sickle cell patients in our state, and primarily those patients are in DeKalb, Fulton, and Clayton County. We recently had a child in one of our schools, I won't name the school, but a child died because they had a sickle cell episode, and that's because teachers didn't really know how to respond to what was happening. So what I want to do is make sure that we work with the Department of Education, the Department of Public Health, so that we can teach everyone and let everyone in our schools know how to respond to sickle cell episodes, how to see signs of sickle cell episodes, so that we can better save our students. Mental health. I'm trying to ensure that we have mental health resources for our students, because our students are impacted by a lot of things that may happen at home and what may happen inside of our schools. I have worked with one of my favorite principals, and I've actually been inside of his school and just talked to students, and that's what a lot of them care about is their mental state. And lastly, a sickle cell initiative that I'm working on that it's not affiliated with the school, and that is creating a sickle cell review board so that we can learn more about the medications and treatments that we are using to treat people impacted by sickle cell, to see what's working. Right now, what we're doing in sickle cell in Georgia, and Georgia has the third most amount of sickle cell individuals, only a third to Mississippi and Alabama, but we're just giving generic medications and treatments. So what I'm working on is figuring out what we can improve on, the treatments that may work better, so we can have review panels and experts to come in and say, hey, we need to improve on maybe prescribing this type of medication or that medication, or this doesn't work. So those are the three things that I'm working on, and again, they can be just summarized in safety, education, and health.
Sheriff Maddox, Representative Crawford brought up safety. What is the Sheriff's Department taking, what steps is the Sheriff's Department taking to strengthen trust between law enforcement and the community?
Thank you for that question. That's a very good question. When we talk about strengthening law enforcement in the community, it starts with the leader. It starts at the top. One of the good things about me, I'm considered as the community sheriff. People want to see the leaders of the agencies out in the community and being a part. But not only that, to be able to show the care and concern. What we are doing, we have a program. One of the biggest programs when I talk about building that trust is my Boys to Men, Girls to Pearls camp program that I have every year. This is my 5th year having the camp, putting on this camp, sponsoring the camp. And this comes straight out of my budget, Commissioner, just throwing it out there, it comes out of my budget. Instead of my budget, but you can never put a dollar amount on our youth. One of the things that is very big to me is our seniors and our youth. So we make sure that this is a free camp. It's from 8 a.m. until 4 p.m. every day for the month of June. It doesn't cost the youth a dime, ages from 9 to 16 years of age. And I can't even go down the list of training and skill sets that they obtain. Their clothes, everything is sponsored. The only thing they need is black pair of shoes and khaki pants. And guess what? If they don't have that, we sponsor that as well, because we want to make sure that these kids get the necessary resources that are available for them and be able to have that conversation. Some youth don't know about how to approach law enforcement because they are too busy seeing what the media has put out. So we want to show them that no, we don't just lock up, and we don't just beat individuals. We actually go out here and we do the work, and we have a care and concern for our community. So it starts at the top. This program, again, I'm putting it out there because I want it to be a selling point to everybody that we're going to start it back up in go back to it June of this year, but we'll start putting the information out in March, and then we'll make the decision probably at the end of April or at the beginning of May. Remember, this is free. They get breakfast, lunch, snacks. We do a back-to-school event. We make sure that they have all their school supplies. We take them on field trips, and we're not just talking about just fill out in the play. We take them to STEM projects for them. We take them to recording studios. Not only that, we show them different sides of law enforcement as well as other careers. It's more to our community than just basketball and football and softball. There are other things. We made up this country. I'm gonna keep it real. We made up this country, and I want to make sure that our youth are very knowledgeable on that. So that's what we talk about, building the strength, getting out there, and being seen in the community. And that's what I have done, and that's what the sheriff office has done, and that's what we will continue to do.
Thank you. Dr. Levett, and we coming to you in a second, Dr. Jones, because we're talking about children, which are our priority. But Sheriff Maddox just mentioned something that stood out to me, that there are more options available to our children than perhaps they might think. And one of those is entrepreneurship. And we have a very successful entrepreneur here in DeKalb County with us. Dr. Levett, how can the business community collaborate with local government to drive economic development?
Thank you. That's a very good question. And I prepared a few notes here. The situation being an entrepreneur in DeKalb County, really in the metropolitan Atlanta area with government. One of the things that I see as an issue, number one, how many people have ever applied for a business license or a permit to do something in their house? It is very hard, and the things that I prepared, we need the government, in order for us to work together, we need to streamline the permitting and licensing process to make it easier for entrepreneurs and businesses to start or restart their businesses. We need to simplify the zone. I'm glad the commissioner here in the state legislature, and we need to change and simplify the zoning process and trying to get land zoned to start a business. We need to enhance the infrastructure to invest in road improvements in the community. We need to develop more smart cities and technology and expand to public transportation in DeKalb County. I share a story with you all. I know all the politicians in DeKalb. I know all the commissioners. I started the project 3 years ago, trying to remodel my Flat Shoals film home on Parkway. It took me 2.5 years to get a permit. 2.5 years. And I know if I know all the politicians and I'm involved in a lot of communities, if it takes that long for me to do it, how long does it take an average person to get a permit in the county? My original project, I had pre-approved loan from the bank at 3.5% interest rate. By the time the county approved my permit, the interest rate had gone from 3.5% to 7%. So that almost made my mortgage go up 50%. Number two, I spent almost $500,000 on blueprints to give to the county for what we needed to get done. By the time the county got through with my blueprints, they had ran my budget up over $1.3 million more than what the original budget was. So it made me have to cancel what I was originally doing and had to go back to the drawing board and redraw the blueprint to reduce the price to keep it in line. Number one, because the interest rate had gone up, and number two, all the restrictions that the zoning department put on me, it made it almost impossible for me to do what I needed to do. And so these are the things that I think the county and the entrepreneurs need to do. They need to listen to the community business leaders. A lot of small businesses do not have that money to invest in all the things they need to do. It needs to be more simplified and easier for us to do business with the county. And I think if we do that, it would help the county grow, it'd help young entrepreneurs grow, and make it easy for all of us to do business. And the money will be returned back into the community and not leave the community. And if we build here in the community, the money will turn around 3 and 4 times, and we reinvest in it. If someone else coming and do what we're trying to do, it's going to go through the community one time and it's gone forever.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Massiah, real quick, can you respond to the concern, because I heard a lot of people in the audience, the concern of some of our business owners and entrepreneurs when it comes to the permitting process?
Absolutely. And to start again, and I mentioned in terms of our roles, and it's important that people understand the role of a commissioner, just like they understand and respect the role of a state legislator or a state rep. Our role is to be a legislative branch of DeKalb County government. That means that we are not necessarily responsible, or we're not responsible for the operational and administration of DeKalb County. Now, because we have constituents that have concerns, and we are the line of defense and concerned about what happens in our districts and our communities, we help as much as we can. We get information, we try to reach out and make phone calls to the directors, to the department heads, to the folks, so that we can get things done. But we don't operate or administrate the county. I mean, and that is just the reality of it. We are not directing code enforcement. We are not directing planning and sustainability. We are not directing permitting, even though we may get involved, similar to your state or your national senators, right? When you have an issue, for example, with your passport, right, or your taxes, or some issue that's based on what's going on an administrative level, then you might reach out to your senator. You might reach out and say, this is an issue that I'm having, and I need you to get engaged, and I need you to get involved. And trust me, we want to know, because if things aren't taking place, we want to understand. But at first and foremost, I want you to understand how it is supposed to happen. We are not directing and setting forth a course for code enforcement, or even, again, to permitting when it comes to licensing. We're not making the decisions as to who the director is and who's being hired and how quickly the process is going forth. And even sometimes we make the phone calls, if from an operational standpoint, there's a plan to do something different, then it may combat with what the commissioners are saying. We want to hear, we want to know, and I will say, me particularly, and speaking for myself, I care. It matters to me. I'm sacrificing to be here and to serve because you matter to me. Your experiences, what you have the capacity to do, how you have the ability to feed your family, start businesses, and all of the things that you need to do to have a better life matters to me. I am just not in control administratively or operationally. So I would say first and foremost, start there, right? And to the extent you're not seeing the results that you need, then reach out to your county commissioners. CC us. Make sure we're engaged and involved in some of the emails so that we can then follow up. But let's first start where it's supposed to happen instead of just assuming, which a lot of folks typically do, that is the county commissioners that are just not doing their job, and then it makes it seem like that, you know, we don't care, because most of us, me primarily, I do.
Gotcha, thank you. And we're gonna get to our most prized possession, which are our children, but I gotta ask you this one question. Yeah. If it's not the commissioners, who is it? I'm serious.
No, I mean, and this is real talk and safe space, right? And
right.
I came here so I can have real talk. You guys are here today so we can have real talk and dialogue. With what we're dealing with on a national level, with what we're experiencing on a national level, what we are threatened by on a national level, we want real folks that are here to serve, to have real discussions about what we need to do and how we can work together to get things done. That is what I'm here to do. So the administrative is an executive branch of government. There are 3 branches of government, as I'm sure you guys all know. There's the executive, there's the legislative, and there's the judicial. We're supposed to be co-equal, co-responsible branches of government, and that is the form of how we are set up here in DeKalb County. We have a CEO out of the 159 counties that we have in Georgia. We are the only county to have a CEO branch of government. We have a CEO, we have 7 county commissioners, and then we have judges and judicial branch. So it does start with the executive branch. You have an issue, please don't hesitate to get me involved as the legislative branch of DeKalb County government.
Thank you.
Can I make a comment?
Yes,
on
sir.
that? Positive comment. What I see, what the issue basically is that most government work very slow, and we all know that. And in the position where I'm sitting, I think if the permitting position became privatized and not ran by the government, I think it'd be more efficient. When we know we got a check and we're gonna get paid whether we get the job done or not, there's no extra effort to make it happen. But if I know if I don't work, I don't eat and produce something, then things don't happen. So I think if we privatize these permitting departments and made it an independent contractor and they got paid based on what they produce, I think it would help the county in whole and increase our tax base, because if you got a business, you're gonna pay taxes. And the more businesses pay taxes, the less taxes residents going to pay.
Look, we're going to come back to this because Dr. Levett, man, you started something on tonight. We're going to come back to this, but I think you answered the question that I had as far as the different branches of government, and it falls under the executive branch, correct?
It does.
Okay, that's in DeKalb County, that's the CEO's office.
It is.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Keith Jones, help us out.
Yes.
What y'all doing for the kids?
We love the children. Let's be clear about that. We are working to make sure all of our scholars in DeKalb County have access to equitable access to all things that are resource related. Just to ensure, I can only speak from where I sit in respects to my school. I'm not here speaking on behalf of Dr. Horton. I am a DeKalb County principal. I am the principal of the DeKalb School of the Arts. So from where I sit in my principal seat, we just want to make sure that all resources are available for all scholars at all times. And that may sound simple, but it's a very tedious process to make sure that all scholars have access to the things that they need to be successful. And as a principal and as a parent as well, I do believe a lot of that starts at home. We are an extension of what takes place at home. We to make sure that your scholars receive the information that you've sent them to school to receive. And there are a lot of variables that come into play with that, you know, from the custodians to the cafeteria workers to the teachers to the leaders in the building. We all have to make sure that those relationships are available to those scholars when they walk into the building. And when parents drop their scholars off, they have to come back. You just can't drop them off and leave them. We are a partnership in respects to what takes place between the school and home. We are a partnership, and I do believe we need to get back to that. It may sound like it's impossible, but it is the right thing that we need to do to ensure that our scholars are not only meeting but exceeding academic expectations.
Thank you, Dr. Jones. And I don't want y'all to miss, Judge Freeman, I want you to explain to everybody the role that the probate court holds here in DeKalb County.
Well, probate court, it's one of the only courts in Georgia where there is one in every single county, and we do a lot of different things. We're probably best known for our estates division. When a loved one passes away, whether they have a will or not, and you need to open an estate, and they are domiciled here in the county, you're going to come to the DeKalb County Probate Court, and we're going to go through that process with you to get an executor or an administrator appointed. But we also take great pride in our commitment to mental health and adult guardianship services. Mental health, Representative Crawford's already mentioned that. It's so important. And when a family member, a friend, a loved one is in need of an evaluation, just an evaluation, we have folks who can come to the court, complete affidavits, and we can order that evaluation at a nearby facility. DeKalb County has a lot of mental health facilities, and so those facilities also file petitions in our court when they have patients who may need involuntary treatment. That petition is going to come to us, and we work fast we have to have a hearing in a matter of a few days to determine if that patient needs to be kept at the hospital for additional care. So that's a huge part of the work we do. We also have a licensing division. Some of you may have interacted with us in that way. If you're getting married, you need a marriage license. Those are usually the happy folks coming to the courthouse. We also do weapons carry licenses. And then we have, of course, the judicial branch. And that's, if families aren't getting along or there's something going on that has to come to the courtroom, we are there for that. And we have a lot of hearings all the time, actually. And then we do have a division that is responsible for auditing. When you're appointed as an administrator or sometimes even an executor or a conservator for an incapacitated adult or a minor, you have to file paperwork with the court. You have to tell us how you're managing that money. And so we have staff that review those forms and make sure things are going the way they need to. And so we have a staff of about 38. And so we're a large court, and we stay busy most every day.
Thank you. As you all can see, the probate court touches our lives in many ways, many more ways than you might have expected. Judge Freeman, is there anything that the probate court specifically is doing to make legal services more accessible to the residents of DeKalb County?
Well, we're trying to make it as easy as possible to interact with us. You can come down to the courthouse and file things in person. You can still do mail or FedEx or UPS, but we also have e-filing now, and you'll start seeing that in more probate courts across the state. But most things can be e-filed, so that's an easier way to do it. You don't even have to come see us in person, and we can do a lot over Zoom as well. If you're an administrator or an executor or a guardian or conservator, you have to take an oath. And if Zoom works better for you, we will work with you and do that virtually. In some of our hearings, if it makes sense, we'll do a hearing over Zoom and save you a trip to the courthouse. So we're trying to make it as easy as possible to interact with us.
Thank you. Thank you. Panelists, before we get ready to get to the questions that the community have, I'm going to ask some rapid fire questions. I'm going to need y'all to answer these questions quickly, okay? Quickly, as quick as possible. But Sheriff Maddox, how are you addressing crime prevention and public safety concerns in DeKalb County? I've heard a lot about mental health. So specifically, how do you all address those mental health concerns here in DeKalb?
Well, in DeKalb County, I can only speak for the sheriff office. What we're doing at the sheriff office. Let me just say this right now. I have a medical director right here that what we do is have wraparound services. When they come in, the first thing they do is get an assessment. They get an assessment to see what they need, and/or it may be therapy, they may need medication, and sometimes they may need both. But it's about treating those individuals as patients, knowing what they need. But not only that, when they exit out of the center, we want to make sure they have the necessary items in order to fulfill their life once they get out on the road. So we have built relationships, in other words, with those agencies on the outside to make sure that they get their medication, to try to get somebody to help them stay on their plan of which they need. We understand, I will say this really quick, that out of 2,100 plus inmates that are incarcerated in the DeKalb County Sheriff Office, 70% of those inmates has been classified as mentally ill. 70%. Wow. So that number is really big. When you're talking over 2,100 inmates and 70%, and we treat those individuals as patients. Although they are in an adult detention facility, we still treat them like patients, make sure that they get the care that is necessary for them, and even try to assist the families with the resources to help them once they get out and then go back to their homes or back to the communities of which they are residing.
Sad reality. And I know some of the local officials, Representative Crawford, are limited in what they can do because of decisions that are made under the Gold Dome. How can the community get more involved in shaping the legislative priorities?
That's an excellent question, and I think the way that I answer that is by giving an instruction. This might be one of the most important things that I say tonight, so if you have a pen, please write this down. The way that you know what we're doing at the Gold Dome is to go on to www.legis.ga.gov. There, you can look at everything that we do in real time. So you can know every single bill that we are debating, every single bill that is being presented on the House floor or in a committee. You can also search what bills are being drafted and introduced. Oftentimes, a lot of constituents will ask, are you doing this? What are you guys doing about so many things? And a lot of times I have to explain, we are trying to pass those bills. We have drafted a bill that is going to look exactly like you want it to, but maybe it doesn't get a committee hearing. So what I want you all to do is if you go onto that website and see that there's a particular piece of legislation that interests you, take the time, come to the Capitol, advocate for that bill. Don't just send emails. Come down there and talk to people, because the more vocal you are, the more present you are, the easier bills can get passed. And that's as simple as I can say it.
Show up.
Show up.
Right.
www.legis, Legis, as in legislator, legis.ga.gov.
And the same thing is true when it comes to your county commissioner meetings. There are several of you here that I see that do come, and you will speak on a particular issue, but I invite you all to come. You know, at least once, come in person. Tomorrow we have a special call meeting dealing with the water rate increase, but also dealing with our 2025 budget. Come down, listen to the communications, print out the agenda, see what's going on, and then when they have an opportunity for public comments, speak your piece, speak your mind, share your thoughts. That's how we know what you want and what you need to actually take place. And I think what Omari is saying, participate with us in the process.
Dr. Levett, there sounds like there are a lot of entrepreneurs and business people in the audience. Quickly, give us some advice. Give some advice to the entrepreneurs that are here with us today.
It's very simple, Pastor. Most people don't believe it when I share this with them. Number one, you got to trust God.
Amen.
Number two, you got to believe in yourself. And when I was 19 years old, my pastor had told me he wanted me to start tithing, and I was dumb enough
Amen.
to start tithing. And I did, and I'll be 75 in July. And my wife and I never stopped tithing. So I give all my credit to my business to trusting in God. And that God said, if you take care of my people, he'll take care of you. And I tell my young business people to get a relationship with your local politicians, or get a relationship with your faith-based community leaders, and give your time, your talents, and give back to the community. If you take care of your community will take care of you. And it has proven that with the families that allow us to serve them over the many, many years. Being able to do this has made us the largest funeral home in the southeastern United States by giving back and serving and trusting God. And the people trusting us.
Trusting God. Dr. Jones, what opportunities exist for community members and businesses to support our local schools?
Great question. I would just say that the door is always open for you all to come into the schoolhouse and provide that level of support to our scholars. Just recently, this past Monday, a young man emailed me and wanted to come in to support one of the art programs. And he was so amazed that I responded to him, and I responded immediately because we're always looking for that additional support for those individuals to come in to support the arts. And I'm just speaking of the arts, but in order to be an artist, you have to have discipline. So, you know, we're trying to build upon that discipline, not just from an artistic perspective, but just from a general content perspective of understanding the math sciences, the ELAs, and the social studies. All those things come into play. We're always looking for people to come in and support, to volunteer. We're not always able to pay for your services, but sometimes reward is in the end. You're not going to always receive the reward at the beginning of the service. It's something that scholars can look forward to. So we're at 1192 Clareton Avenue, DeKalb School of the Arts. If you would like to come and offer your support and services, I see Miss Oliver in the audience. I'm just going to shout you out because I do see you. And she's always in the building supporting what we're trying to do at the DeKalb School of the Arts. And I would highly recommend you contact your local principal and let them know what you want to do in support of what's taking place in that building.
Thank you, sir. Judge Freeman, specifically, what role does the court play when it comes to guardianship cases and estate planning?
Well, we are the court to come to if someone of a minor, or we do temporary guardianships for minors, and we do adult guardianships for incapacitated adults. And if that person is domiciled here in DeKalb County, or even just found in DeKalb County, you would file that petition in our court. And probate court does have a lot of standard form petitions. So if it's something you think may be needed, I recommend you go to our website, which is DeKalbProbateGA.com. And you can see all the standard form petitions that apply to all the probate courts in the state. And that's a great starting point. There's a lot of instructions there. And let me just add, we also have a program in partnership with DeKalb Pro Bono. This is for the estate side. If you have an uncontested estate matter and need a little guidance about what to do, what to file after a loved one dies, uncontested, we have an application you can fill out. It's called the Probate Information Center. And if you meet the qualifications, we can schedule an appointment with a probate attorney, 45 minutes at no cost. Those are virtual appointments.
Commissioner Massiah, are there any infrastructure or community development plans going on currently in District 3?
Absolutely. So first I will say that, again, we have 3 new commissioners and we have a new administration. So essentially half of the governing body of DeKalb County is now new. With that, we have additional directors and departments that are being created, including Department of Economic Development that the administration has created. But then also we have identified different developments that need to take place, particularly in District 3 that has the largest amount of undeveloped land here in DeKalb County. With that, we also have for instance, South DeKalb Mall that has been struggling, and a lot of other areas that I would say have been blighted or eyesores within the community for some time now, and opportunities for growth and for improvement. And so those are being identified, those properties that have plagued a lot of our communities for some time have been identified so that we can determine whether or not they need to be demolished. After, of course, trying to find the owner, actually then taking over the property and making repairs and to be able to execute home ownerships on different levels. So we presently have a housing trust, we have a land bank, and the commissioners are looking at a land trust. Now, usually a land trust is a private ownership opposed to a public one, but with that, I want to make sure that whatever we identify and whatever we determine those the land needs to go into, that it's not a situation where we are losing our homes in our community, right? That we be able to have the resources and the programs to actually repair the homes, because there's a lot of District 3 that are on fixed incomes. They don't have the monies for a new roof, for instance, that don't necessarily know where to go to be able to afford a plumber or an electrician that's inexpensive. So economic development in part starts with making sure our communities are developed, that they have structure, that they have organization, that they are well maintained. And then I guess the other big issue that we are dealing with from a development standpoint and an infrastructure standpoint is, again, the water. Just needing some real major repairs in DeKalb County, and I would say primarily in South DeKalb. And so apparently, and just quoting some of the numbers and talking to some of the water advocates, we have a lot of our constituents that are paying 3% and upwards of 25% on their water bill. However, a lot of the identified priority areas are in the northern side of DeKalb County and not necessarily on South DeKalb. So, those are some of the things that we're gonna work on. Those are some of the things that we need to fix. Using SPLOST money, SPLOST 2 monies, reestablishing our boards so that there is oversight, and speaking specifically to one of our constituents there in the audience, there's a lot of work to be done. What I ask as it relates to the commissioners, when it comes to the administration, when it comes to us all, have grace, have mercy, have patience, and allow us to do what we are here to do. Trust us just a little bit. Have a little faith, right? And it'll give a little time in the process.
Thank you. Now we're about to get quickly to the portion that I know y'all want to do for us to hear you all's questions. I hope that you wrote them down on the card that was given to you as you came in this evening. Here's what I need you to do. Everybody listen to me. If you have a note card with a question, pass it to your left. Pass it to your left. Pass it to your left. To the end of your row to your left. Pass it to your left. Go ahead and bring me the raffle tickets, please. And also locate your raffle ticket that was given to you, but pass your note cards to the left, all the way to the end of your row to the left. Minister Camarco and Sister Lakeisha and somebody else, y'all, Sister Pam Williams, y'all collect those raffle tickets, please. I mean the note cards with the questions. Thank you. Last three numbers on your raffle ticket, 095. 095. If I call your number, come to the front. I have something for you. Yeah. 095 019. Yes, ma'am. Come to the front. 019. 089. 089 044. 089 044. That's you? Come on. Now, I'm giving you this gas card, but I need you to drive to church on Sunday. Thank you. And everyone is invited to worship. Yes, ma'am. Everybody is invited to worship on Sunday at 10 a.m. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, sir. Thank you. They still collecting you all's questions? Go ahead.
So in the meantime, while they're collecting the questions, one of the things when we talk about mental illness that's really big and near and dear to my heart, because I have someone in my family that's very close that deals with mental illness, so I understand it from a personal level. But I do want to make sure, and I can speak on behalf of all law enforcement, whether it be the police department or the sheriff's office, we have to take what we call CIT training, which is the crisis intervention training. That's 40 hours of training. We are not mental health experts, but this training allows us to be able to at least look and probably to do a assessment as to if they're going through a emotional breakdown or what's happening, and to kind of sort of differentiate between what's going on with that individual at that time. So this is a mandatory training that is for all sworn law enforcement, whether it be with the police department, marshal's office, or the DeKalb County Sheriff's Office, and that helps us to identify when we come across an individual that may be going through some sort of mental breakdown or a crisis.
Thank you. Thank you. This is a question, I guess, that's going to get several different answers, but it's kind of for all of you. Somebody wants y'all to come and speak at their school, and they're saying, how far advance notice do they need to give you to come and speak at a DeKalb school?
Well, you need the sheriff. Well, the sheriff does not mind. Everybody, people know DeKalb County is my heart. Like Dr. Levett said, I can't get someone else's house in order in another jurisdiction when my house needs to be in order. So I have my community relations manager right here, Ms. Lisa Wiley. You all can get her information, send her the information, and we can make sure we get that happen, get those times scheduled.
Well, I'm glad to come and speak. Any opportunity I have to help change the lives of young people, just call my office and they will schedule me an appointment. I'd be honored.
And I will add very quickly, I'm a product of the DeKalb County School District, and
Southwest DeKalb, right?
Southwest DeKalb High School. Right. And I see my teacher back there. Anyway, and I'm sitting next to Dr. Jones, and he knows this. I have gone to his school before. I do a program called Lunch with a Legislator, where I sit down with students and teach them about the legislative process and how a bill goes from an idea to the governor's desk for his signature. And so I will come to any school. My only request is, please don't make it when we're in legislative session, because it's just very difficult to get to schools when that happens. But I come to any school.
You can go ahead.
Absolutely, and so most of you guys have known I've shared, I started out with getting my GED after having a child at 16, now sworn into the U.S. Supreme Court in addition to being a commissioner here. So I'm always happy to share my rags to where I'm at story.
Rags to blessing.
Rags the blessing story with, anybody that needs, and it's not always, of course, youth, it's anybody that needs to understand that with faith, that we can build ourselves up and do whatever it is that we want to do and whatever we need to do as long as we're following God's purpose and not our own. With that, my Chief of Staff is here, LaShawn Atwaters. In terms of lead time, give me a month or two. Again, we're dealing with water, we're dealing with budget, and also trying to build up our office presently. So just give me a moment to get our sea legs in, get a little bit more foundation, and in terms of lead time, there doesn't have to be one specifically. All you got to do is reach out to our office to the extent, as long as it's not on Tuesdays when I'm on the dais, all day Tuesday. Outside of that, as long as it fits in our schedule, I'll be there.
And please email the court if you'd like someone to come. We are always willing to come out and speak, and we've got our email addresses available on the website.
Someone said, thank you for this platform. Can we possibly look for a future session where the CEO as well as the school superintendent come and address community concerns? So, Madam CEO and Mr. Superintendent, you heard the invitation. We're going to schedule it, amen, and prayerfully we get them in the room for you all. Quickly, because I kind of don't know what they're talking about, but hopefully you all do, and it's probably for you, Commissioner, but quickly answer this one, if you can. A group of DeKalb County tax-paying citizens are outraged by the recent $6.5 million purchase without notifying the citizens. Please provide a next step directive for the grievance process to address this concern.
So 6.5, does it say specifically on what?
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Do you know what they're talking about? I don't know. School board. The building.
So that's a school board. That's
Okay.
that's the school board. That's
Yes, I'm unable to address that. So I think I heard Pastor say he was going to try to get the superintendent potentially in a meeting, but I'm unable to address that.
Why are we seeing larger apartment complexes being built that resemble housing projects? That's more of a design complaint, right?
Nobody help them.
What are the plans for Wesley Chapel around the I-20 exit? Once the widening project is completed, it would be nice to see better use of the existing plazas which have vacant properties.
I guess that's to me. So yes, I agree, and I believe that there needs to be better projects in general, not just off of 285 and Wesley Chapel, but again, throughout South DeKalb. That is when it comes to South DeKalb Mall, when it comes to Candler Road and the corridor in which it is, when it comes to certain parts of Memorial Drive. It's not a secret. There are opportunities to have better communities here in South DeKalb. I agree with that wholeheartedly. All right, and so again, the administration has hired a new economic development director. His name is Jacob Vallow, and so there are some initiatives that they're putting forth. And from my perspective, and as a District 3 commissioner, I want to sit down and understand the development process that the administration has. I want to be able to bring that to the constituents and have conversations around that. I want to be able to have my input and ensure that you guys have your input as well. So from a procedural standpoint, that's some of what I expect to happen. And again, it won't just be off of Wesley Chapel, off of 20, but throughout South DeKalb.
Thank you. And I don't want you all to think I'm filtering these questions. I'm going to ask it, but I think I know the answer to this one. Who are the real bosses for the CEO? And I believe the answer is you all. It's the people. It's the citizens. So that's the answer to that question.
And you guys are our bosses too as commissioners. So
Hey, she just told you.
You're my boss.
Representative Omari Crawford, what is being done by the DeKalb delegation to determine impacts to DeKalb that may result from federal grant funds, elimination or reductions?
Thank you for that question. I think we're gonna have to be specific about which types of funds from federal grants. Right now, as you all have, as you have seen right now, that there are a lot of cuts from the current president right now of what grants are going to be coming. So I don't know right now that we even have any information about what grants are available. We have a president right now that has cut everything from jobs at the CDC, which we'll be talking about at the Capitol tomorrow, has cut down funds from the Department of Education, so on and so forth. So I don't have any numbers to determine what we as a delegation are doing with funding that we haven't even seen yet.
And I can tell you that's a concern for the commissioners as well, myself primarily, that I'm, again, concerned about with some of the cuts coming to our seniors. What do I do with the budget that I'm responsible for, and how I might be able to allocate that, if need be, to be able to feed the seniors, the folks on fixed incomes, the folks that are handicapped, the folks that are having hardships in my district.
Sheriff Maddox, what determines the jurisdiction of the sheriff versus DeKalb County? I'm assuming they're saying DeKalb County Police Department.
For the police chief? Well, that's a good question. One of the things I want to make sure that people are educated on, there is a difference between the roles and responsibilities of the DeKalb County Police Chief and the sheriff. Number one, the chief of police is appointed, as you can see by the CEO. The sheriff is elected by you, the citizens. I have no boss. The only boss I have are the 769,000 citizens of DeKalb County. So what determines the jurisdiction? I have statewide jurisdiction. The chief of police in the DeKalb County Police Department only handles unincorporated DeKalb County, which my team can go anywhere in the state of Georgia, and we have reciprocity with other states that we're able to go out and do our job as well. So I want to make sure that you all know the difference. I just talked about that today. People need to be educated on the leaders and the positions that they hold and what their sole responsibility is for. And my responsibility is for the whole county, for the courthouse. The biggest part is for the incarceration of those individuals that are at the adult attention facility, and making sure that they have somewhere to sleep, eat, and education, so to make sure that they go out and they're better out than what they did when they were coming in.
Here's just a request. I guess we need some white lines on Wesley Chapel. And white lines, the traffic lines. Yes, but this individual said that they drive a school bus, and so we want to make sure that our roads are safe for our students as they are going to school. Who would be the best person to contact to volunteer, share scholarship information, and professional expertise in education? Who would be the best person to contact to volunteer at schools or share scholarship information?
I would definitely say the building principal. I would definitely start there. If you have a particular school in mind that you would like to share that information with, I would start with the building principal and contact him or her.
Does the district or the county have zoning restrictions for the amount of liquor stores and gas stations in an area? And if so, can that be done to enhance the community and attract better businesses other than gas stations and liquor stores? That might be you, Commissioner Massiah.
Why not? Of course. Presently, there are laws in terms of the proximity of a package store to things like churches and to schools. In terms of the number, I'm not familiar with any limitations in terms of the number, and open to that being something that may need to be added to the Muni Code. Again, as the commission particularly, and as we're talking about economic development and opportunities, looking at what we can do to prevent some of the ills, if you will, from what we have now as to what we're looking to be able to do and to be able to have in the future. And if that's something that you're interested in, please don't hesitate to reach out to my office directly, and let's have further conversations about it.
Sheriff Maddox, who do we call when there's an issue with a mental health person, mentally ill? unhoused person in distress? They're asking you. I don't know if that's sheriff department or police
Well,
department.
that would be the police department, but if we happen to be out, one of the deputies happen to be out and see someone that's in distress that needs assistance, it's not like we're gonna pass by. Again, we have statewide jurisdiction. We're all law enforcement, and let me be clear on that as well. We're all law enforcement officials. We are certified through the state of Georgia as post-certified officers, so we're able to respond to those calls. However, we will follow up and with PD and see if they have the resources to have someone to come over and check them out. If there's a criminal activity, then that will be the police department to arrest, to come in and do the report, and then at which time they come to our facility, and then we take it from there. Again, walking in, doing an assessment, and see what necessary therapy that they will need.
Thank you. Representative Crawford, what is the status of House Bill 225? How can we defeat some of the terrible, dangerous legislation being proposed?
There's a lot of dangerous legislation being proposed from where I sit. And I think I'm going to be as brief as I possibly can, but I think it's important to kind of give an oversight of what happens down at the state capitol. I see some familiar faces, some may know, so if you do, just please bear with me. We have 11 million citizens in the state. We have two different chambers, a Senate chamber and a House chamber. In this House chamber where I sit, there are 180 state reps. There are 80 Democrats, 100 Republicans. Let me repeat that. There are 80 Democrats, 100 Republicans. We have 44 committees, and every committee that we have down there, with an exception of one, is headed by a Republican. We have a Republican-run state. Just giving you facts. I'm not trying to sway any political parties one way or another. The bills that get to the governor's desk, as you can imagine, are bills that are sponsored by Republicans. In my first term, I'm now in my second term. In my first term, I was extremely fortunate to have 3 hearings, which is unheard of. That's very rare and it doesn't happen. If you want to stop bad bills like 225 or others, there are a few things that you do. The website that I just gave you, find out committee chair people, chairwomen, chairmen, and if you don't like certain legislation, email them consistently telling them why you don't like that legislation. Come down to the Capitol, tell people face to face why you don't like particular legislation, follow it. But most importantly, I appreciate your support here in DeKalb County, but in DeKalb County, every state rep and every state senator is a Democrat. We have a very large state. If we want to be able to pass legislation that benefits people like you in this church, then we need to make sure that we flip some seats. In other words, let's go from that 100 Republicans, what if we have 100 Democrats? That doesn't happen unless you get involved, not just at the local level, but at the state level as well. And so that's how we can stop bad legislation, but more importantly, that's how we can pass good legislation.
Thank you. And
can I make
yes,
a
sir.
comment on that? I think the situation is basically our fault, and the reason we don't go out and vote. We got to get out and vote. We said my one vote do not count, it do. We're in the situation now in D.C. because we didn't go out and vote. There's enough people in the all the metropolitan cities in Georgia for us to control the House and the Senate. But if we don't go out and vote, that's not going to happen. So we can only fault ourselves for sitting at home and saying we cannot do anything. Your vote is very important.
that is true. Dr. Levett, there are several questions and I don't want to spend a lot of time on it, but there are several questions about the licenses and permitting. Some people are curious, what advice would you give them to navigate that process, to try and speed it up if possible? And then, Commissioner Massiah, there's a second part to that question that I'm going to ask you.
If I had to do it again, but most small business cannot afford to do it, probably hire a professional person to go in and apply for my permits, for my building permit, and kind of know in advance what to expect. I had remodeled several buildings, but this last time was just a nightmare.
That's literally the word they put.
Right, with all the restrictions that keep adding on. And some of these laws are made at state capital and national, so we need to get with our legislators and our state government officials to to relax some of these laws and to make it a little better for us to be business people. Some communities don't want you to be in business. So they have these zoning and restrictions and keep the policy down. So, you know, if we got economical wealth, we can say a lot, but you have no economic growth, you're dead. So a lot of this can be political. You know, those people that are making those decisions downtown at the courthouse, most of them don't look like us. That's giving these permits and the business license, even though we in a county that looks like us.
Commissioner, Dr. Levett set it up perfectly. One of the questions was, if it's not the commissioners, and we said that it's part of the executive branch, that if we keep having the same issues with people in code enforcement, et cetera, how can those people basically be removed is the question.
How could the...
Like code enforcement, licensing, all those people. How we say that those who are elected, basically the community can vote you in and out, but these are appointed positions. They're saying what could be done to change those individuals.
And again, and let me be clear, even though legislative branch of DeKalb County government want to know about the challenges that you're having, it's just helpful if you've gone through the process and reached out to the administration first, since they determine essentially what happens from an operational standpoint. And to the extent you've done that, and it still hasn't been any reprise, then please do let us know so that we can get involved. Share facts, right, about the process that you've taken. Share dates about who you've communicated with. Send me email threads. I'm an attorney, I love evidence, right? Send me what you have done to try to resolve the situation. Then, when I've reached out to the department, and even bringing it to the COO and CEO, if I need to, I have support for not just what the constituents have done, but what I've done to try to resolve the issue.
Yes, sir.
I want to make a positive comment. I did share all these concerns and the problem that I had with our previous CEO and the COO, and he had begun to work on this, and I brought it to their attention, and he had begun to work on this. And on our new CEO, I have shared the same concern with her, and she promised that she's going to be working and looking at these things to make it better for the DeKalb. So I think we're going to see some changes. If they don't know, they can't do any better. So I spoke with the previous CEO, and he was starting to make a change, and the new CEO says she's going to be looking at things to make it better for us in the future. So all we're going to do is wait and see. So we got to speak up.
Speak up. Judge Freeman, how is DeKalb addressing and I don't know if this is your court or not, but how is DeKalb addressing the deed theft problem? Companies should be held accountable.
Yeah, that would be the Superior Court, the Clerk
Okay.
of Superior Court, and I know she has some initiatives she's addressing. We don't handle the land records in probate court, but I know Clerk DeBerry is addressing that. Did you have anything? I know you're an attorney who practices the Superior Court.
So yeah, it's just Superior Court and reaching out, and I know that she's always been receptive to feedback, so just reaching out and sending a message directly to her is what I suggest.
And what's her name?
That is Madam DeBerry.
Deborah DeBerry.
Deborah
Is the clerk of
DeBerry.
the
So
Superior
there,
Court.
Deborah DeBerry.
She will respond. If you reach out to her, she will respond.
Yeah,
Very
that's what
good.
she
Very
respond,
good.
right.
Her office.
Why not change developers and why not charge developers an impact fee to cover the water concerns and other infrastructure needs versus charging the taxpayers? I can't read what percentage this is. I think it says 10% or 6%. I don't know. Increase yearly, 12 months. The current policy allows the burden to fall on the taxpayers.
So again, that's not something I can particularly answer, as the 10 by 10 is something that's been put forth by the administration. We vote on it, and for anyone that has watched any of the BOC meetings that we've had regarding this issue, my position is and has been, I still don't have enough information to extend a rate of 10% for 10 years. So that is my position individually as a commissioner. There have been some others that have echoed the same. And so as it relates to the 10 by 10, that is something that was put forth by the executive branch of government. You'd have to reach out to them and ask them. Exactly, it's a 10 by 10 for 10 years.
What incentives and how proactively do we look to have corner store business restaurants in this part of DeKalb County? I think they're asking, well, I'll ask for me, when are we going to get some better restaurants on this side of town?
Well, that, yeah, we might as well just create
About economic development.
That's exactly what it is. Economic development, again, goes back into, and that's why when you mentioned economic development and infrastructure, I mentioned the water, because in order to make it advantageous for businesses and the type of businesses that we want in here, they're gonna bring a value to the community, we have to be able to have certain things in place. That includes a water infrastructure that can actually maintain and sustain the needs of a business. In addition, we have to be able to have, communities that, from even a transportation standpoint or a code enforcement and zoning standpoint, we have to be able to have those things in place that make it attractive for some of the business that we want and need in our community. There was a question earlier in terms of some of the package stores and some of the businesses, I would say not just package stores and gas stations that were mentioned, but now we also have an abundance of vape stores that are popping up, in and around. And so in order to, well, first off, I'm in support of a moratorium of some of those particular type of businesses, just because they tend to be more predatory to the community, opposed to supportive and beneficial for the community. With that being said, we have to have certain things in place, and we have to be able to support, and in some instances, and this isn't the popular opinion, but I've not been necessarily popular with all of my responses here, but they've been very truthful, is, there are times to approve a special land use permit, right? To be able to have some more of the residents so that we can have more of the population, so that the businesses that come in, they know that they have an income, and to be able to have a population that will support the businesses that we're saying that we want and need in our community.
And to echo just a little bit off of that and the question and what the commissioner was saying, I think number one, you're gonna see better business come in when the people feel safe in the community. When that safety goes up, then of course people are gonna wanna come in and do business in here, but also they wanna make it easier, like Dr. Levett said, be able to come in and establish business licenses and build business here. Right now, it's very hard, I know that for a fact, to be able to do business in DeKalb County. Again, we have a new CEO in place that's gonna be looking at that with a microscope to make sure that that area is taken care of, because that is what's gonna build up DeKalb even greater to where we are. We can't call this greater DeKalb if we don't have a greater business plan in place for DeKalb.
Let me share this with you all as well. Being an entrepreneur, I've been on a lot of different boards and business associations, and we're sitting in the meeting talking about issues in our communities. It ain't that we can't afford these nice facilities. We had the income and the revenue coming in, and we have had a lot of these nice places, particularly Stonecrest Mall. It wasn't that Stonecrest Mall wasn't successful in sales and revenues and being supported. It was our people stealing. More going out the back door than going in the front door. And they coming in and have dinner at your restaurant, and I'm charging you $10 for a $50 meal. I'm going to Sam and buying a $500 TV, and I'm bringing it up for $50. We got to educate our young people. We have got to stop doing that, so no one want to come in and support it. We had all those at Stonecrest. We had everything you could think of. Same thing at South DeKalb Mall. We had everything under the sun. But because it was not profitable, a business entrepreneur go in business to make money. It's not a non-profit organization. So if they can't make money, they're gonna close the door. And that forces us to go cross town. So we got to educate our young people to stop doing this.
Dr. Jones, for those who would like for their children, their students to attend the DeKalb School of the Arts, what's the process to get their child into your school?
Great question. The process to attend DeKalb School of the Arts. So it's a two-step process. First of all, you would have to apply through school choice. The school choice application windows opens in the fall of every year and also in the spring, in the fall and the spring, but they moved it to January now. Second step is that you have to audition to attend DeKalb School of the Arts. That scholar has to maintain a 3.0 GPA during his or her tenure as a scholar at DeKalb School of the Arts, and they also have to have a 3-point GPA coming into DSA. But it's an amazing place, 1192 Clareton Avenue. If you would like to stop by and visit, my doors are always open.
Sheriff, if you can, one more time, more specifically, explain to the audience the role that the police department plays in DeKalb County and the role that the sheriff's department plays in DeKalb County.
Well, first of all, let me say this too. You do not have to have a police department. A lot of people don't know that. You do not have to have a police department, but you must have a sheriff. Every county must have a sheriff. And out of 3,058 sheriffs in the country, 159 are right here in the state of Georgia. I will talk about this when you talk about the difference, but I gotta put this out there. DeKalb County Sheriff is only one of 100 out of 3,058 sheriffs throughout the world that is Triple Crown accredited, meaning that we have our ACA, NCCHC, and CLE and CALEA certification. We have been audited 3 times with a fine-tooth comb to make sure that we're doing what we're supposed to do. And we have been good stewards to the taxpayers and to the citizens of DeKalb County. Once again, thank you. Once again, I'm honored. I am elected. I'm elected by you. You all have trusted me, and I must be doing a good job because you all said you wanted me to come back for a second term. That's it. I'm just letting you all know. So, second term to serve another 4 years. I love what I do. I have a passion for what it is that I do, and I'm committed and dedicated to the community of which I serve, and that's big when you elect those people in office. Make sure they are committed and dedicated to what they are actually campaigning for, and hold them accountable. I'm okay with that. Hold me accountable. I don't have a problem with that because I know that I'm doing what's right and I'm transparent with what I'm doing. And I'm also having the opportunity to work with the principals and, you know, our representatives and our commissioners and judges, as well as to not allow our youth to be a number at Dr. Levett's office. That's where I don't want to see our youth, and they're going every day. So I am elected by the citizens. The chief of police is appointed by the CEO. The police department is responsible for handling of the 911 calls. So they are to respond to the call, assess the scene, try to calm it down, bring peace. If they have to arrest someone, then that person is then brought to 4415, 4425 Memorial Drive to become incarcerated, where an assessment is done as soon as they walk in the door, and then they get housing, and then we put them on a plan to try to exit them out, get them. They're going to either be indicted by the district attorney, solicitor general, serve their time, whether they be in the jail or down to the prison system. But we still want to make sure that they're better going out than what they did when they came in.
Right. Amen. Representative Omari Crawford, and I'm going to read it as it's written, okay? How are the illegal reductions in staff, dismantling of agencies, and program defunding impacting state programs such as education and transportation?
I think I understand that question, so I'll answer it the best way that I can. What we are seeing at the federal level is trickling down to the state. They are not the exact same, but what we are seeing in legislation, we're talking as we're currently in session, is a lot of proposals to strip away a lot of the funding for public education, a lot of things that are taught within our education curriculums in our classrooms. And what was the other one?
Transportation and education.
Well, transportation, there's been no legislation that's impacting transportation that I'm aware of currently, but a lot of it is dealing with education. What can be taught, we fight that every day. What your kids can and cannot do inside of classrooms, what they can and cannot participate in. Those are some of the really big bills right now. One that's been debated is Senate Bill 1. Another that's being debated right now is going to be House Bill 295, which is more so dealing with children of immigrants, okay? As we see some of the federal scares that are happening, again, it trickles down. So that's really what we're dealing with education, it almost mirrors what happens at the federal level. We are seeing legislation that looks just like that at the federal level. But I have seen nothing with transportation yet. We are in day 20. We have 20 more days to go into session. So that's not saying that I won't see it. I have not seen it yet.
Is there any funding that's allocated on the state level that's specific to your district for DeKalb County?
What we have at the state level, we have about a $36 billion budget. Everyone down there advocates for certain funding. I will use as an example, I'm advocating for funding within sickle cell mainly because the governor prioritized sickle cell by creating a House resolution. I appreciate the House resolution, but now I want to see if the governor is going to put his money where his mouth is and if he will sign legislation that will protect people that have sickle cell. That is an example. At the end of session, we will vote for a very large budget. And that budget is going through the appropriations chair or in both chambers and the governor to see if you can get what it is that you are requesting. The DeKalb delegation, we are going to sit down and figure out what it is as a delegation that we would like to request. In the end of the session, April 4th this year, the governor will then look at everything that's requested, and then he has the power to line item veto whether or not he wants to fund what is being requested. So I cannot answer what is going to be requested just yet at all. And if I could, that means I would be the governor, and I do not want that job to save my life at this point. But that's the process, right? Everybody advocates for certain funding, and hopefully your funding, you get what you request.
Got it. The World Cup, when is it coming?
2026.
2026. Question is, how are we planning to assist the unhoused community as well as get as many people in Atlanta as possible, and what is its impact on DeKalb County? So I guess what is DeKalb County doing to prepare for the World Cup?
I will tell you what the House is doing right now.
Go ahead.
For everybody that's coming for the World Cup, and this is the craziest thing that I've ever seen. So we are excited about the World Cup coming to Atlanta because we're going to have all of these visitors and make all of this money. However, there is a bill right now, and I think it is 285. It is a bill that says that independent citizens, if you think that there is an issue with homelessness inside of your community, then you can file an immediate action against that county or city. So essentially what we are doing is trying to criminalize homeless people and criminalize homelessness. And what that is going to do, unfortunately, to our sheriff, they're trying to put more people inside of the sheriff's office. So now, with as many people that you have in there already, 2,200, is that the number that I heard?
2,100 and 70% has been classified as mentally ill.
So 2,100, and what the state is trying to do now is put people inside of your units that have done nothing wrong other than they're homeless. So that is the weird thing that's happening down there at the state right now. There is a push for locking up homeless people. So I don't know how that works when you are, excited about more people coming, but then we're going to have more jails that are filled with. I don't know how that works, but this is why it is important to come down to the Capitol and advocate against this foolishness, and the email as often as you can. State reps, doesn't have to be just your state rep, but state reps who advocate for this foolishness, to tell them why it's ridiculous.
And I can speak from the law enforcement perspective side of that we've already begun to work together from all law enforcement throughout the state, actually, to bring them in, because we're going to need all hands on deck, but to also make sure that that does not happen, that we don't criminalize just being homeless. Being homeless is not a crime. They just have nowhere to go. So we are working to make sure that we have resources should law enforcement come across an individual as such, that there are resources out there for those individuals to get some housing into, but not just for a temporary stay for the World Cup, but for a long term, not just for that time.
And we have an agenda item as well, and the commissioners right now, we have an agenda item as well against criminalizing the unhoused. So it starts apparently at the state level, and we have something on a local level as well, an agenda item against the idea of criminalizing the unhoused.
Thank you. One more question, and then we're going to allow each of the panelists to give closing remarks for us on this evening. And this is probably for you, Commissioner Massiah. They're asking about the South DeKalb Mall, about South DeKalb YMCA, about Sugar Creek Golf and Tennis, and that in particular, they're asking about the status of a $500,000 SPLOST funds that are allocated. So I guess just some of those staples in our community, what are the plans? That's the question here.
Sure, and it is really just, even as it relates to just the commissioner's budget in general, we've been working with the administration to be able to realize our budget. As you know, the budget has not passed yet. As I mentioned, we have a special called meeting tomorrow, not just PWI that's going to deal with the water rate, but also when it comes to Finance and Audit Committee. Audit and Budget Committee tomorrow, and that's what we're going to discuss. All of the budget proposals related to DeKalb County, because we have a responsibility to pass the budget. So that's what we're dealing with literally as it speaks, constant conversations, going through them, the CEO along with our constitutional officers, elected officers, you know, they have presented to us changes that they want in the budget when and how.
Thank you. One thing that I can tell each of you about our panelists, that they are very approachable, they are easy to talk to, and so hopefully for just a split second after we complete the discussion on tonight, that you'll be able to meet them if you've never met them before, that you'll have the opportunity to do that. But as they did inform you of, get involved, go to the county commission meetings, which are, they on Tuesdays?
Tuesdays, and at this point, we've been having them more frequent than
Okay.
Tuesdays, in that we've had special call meetings. Again, we have 2 tomorrow.
And you do also have access to go and sit and listen in on the sessions down at the Capitol, correct?
Yes, you do. We are in session for 40 days, starting in the second Monday of January for, again, 40 days. This year we end on April 4th. Please come down. You can sit in the gallery and look at everything. It's accessible to you. And if you cannot make your way down to the Capitol, because I know that is not as accessible as coming to the commissioner's office, the website that I gave you, you can look at everything on there. It's not only important, I find it sometimes entertaining, okay? So you should look at it.
And Principal Jones and Sheriff and Dr. Levett and Judge Freeman, all of these panelists, you can find their emails and contact information online on their respective websites. So if you need to get in contact with them, just reach out to them. But I would like to go down the line and you all give closing remarks to the community here on this evening. We can start with Judge Caroline Freeman.
Okay. Well, thank you again for the opportunity to be here and for letting me tell you a little bit more about what probate court does. And we're here when you need us. We are in the main courthouse, downtown Decatur. We have an office in the basement and on the first floor. And as I said, visit our website, and you can do a lot of things virtually, but come to us when you need us. Thank you.
Commissioner Nicole Massiah for District 3 here in DeKalb.
Again, just happy to be here. I know that I'm a newly elected commissioner. I know that there have been some challenges, and I'm just here to serve. So at any point, I pick up telephones and have conversations. I can't speak to you all as often as I would like, and literally answer a litany of questions, but come down and visit with us on Tuesdays. Attack the agenda item. If you don't like it, send me an email, right? Look at the agenda. If there's something you don't like, if there's a part that you don't like about the agenda item, please be specific as to what you don't like, when and how. Offer constructive criticism and say what you would like different, and give me some support for fighting for what you want to see. But again, attack the agenda item opposed to attacking the commissioner.
Dr. Gregory Levett, CEO and founder of Levett & Sons Funeral Home.
I just want to thank you, Pastor Dye, for putting this great program together tonight. Let's give him a big hand. And, I'm honored that you asked me to be a part of this, and I love DeKalb County. Whatever I can do for my community, I'm in 100%. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. The People's Sheriff, Sheriff Melody Maddox.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Again, Pastor, thank you so much for this open engagement conversation. I think it's important for us to keep this conversation going, not just for today. But a couple of things I want to put out there in reference to the DeKalb County Sheriff Office. Shout out to all the employees of the DeKalb County Sheriff Office, because everybody can't do what we do. Trust me, that is a job within a job. It's a city within a city. It's a 900,000 square foot building sitting on 12.2 acres of land that I am responsible for, in addition to the citizens. But we talk about the school, the principal here, and Mr. Levett. One of the things that I have done since I've been in office, and I changed the age, and here's the plug for all of you all out there that have children. 18 years of age or older, coming straight out of high school or with a GED, $48,000 a year, walking in the door. No skill set, no anything. As long as you can read or write, we will get you in there. We will train you. College is not for everybody, and we have to stop pushing that narrative on our children and let them know that a skill, the Bible speaks of skill set. You let them come into the sheriff's office. If they decide to go back to college, guess what? The county would pay for them to go back to college. We want to make sure that we are the country. We're going to be the model for the country, for our sheriff's office, to show what reentry looks like. We have a safe serve where we've already graduated 13 inmates for safe serve, so they're able to go out and serve food. They actually to work in the jail in the staff down. I'm sorry, not staff down, in the kitchen, and they actually get paid. So it's not, we don't call it free labor. They get paid. They get paid for that, and that money is saved, and when they exit out, they get to get that money back. We have our GED program, our welding program. So these are the programs and the initiatives that have been in place, and we're trying to put more programs in place because we want to educate them. One of the things I've learned that since from day one is that you take away your food, somewhere to lay your head in your education, where would you be? So you think about those that are incarcerated, and I tell my employees all the time that you are just an incident away from being on the other side of that gate. So be careful how you treat the people, how you treat people, but also how you talk to people. We're not faultless. We have our faults, but I'm transparent about it. And I hope I have done you all a good job in the past 5 years of being your sheriff, and I look forward to serving you all for the next 4 years. So if you have anybody that want to come and join the DeKalb County Sheriff Office, please then send them here, because I know the DeKalb CEO is about to give DeKalb PD a big raise and make them the highest paid pretty much in the state of Georgia. But it's all about leadership as well.
Amen.
People don't leave, they leave toxic environments. I treat my employees as assets and not liabilities.
Thank you, Sheriff. Principal Keith Jones.
I don't know if I can follow the sheriff, but I'll put my 2 cents in. But she said something very important. She mentioned the $48,000 for scholars coming out of high school. And every scholar is not going to go to college. You know, some will go into the workforce, but I'm going to make sure that I let my principal colleagues know about that $48,000 opportunity for some scholars who are just making it over the line of graduation. You know, they're going to graduate, but they don't have a clue what they may want to do next. And all scholars don't know that they're going to college after they graduate in May. So there has to be something for them to do so that we can continue to keep some of our scholars off the streets, so we can keep our scholars from visiting Dr. Levett sooner than they actually should, or from visiting the sheriff, because there are opportunities for them, but they just have to know about it. We have to continue to expose our children. We are a pipeline from home to school. We have to reconnect that pipeline because over time it has become disconnected, and we need to gain that access back. Thank you.
Don't forget about my camp. The camp is coming up June. Everybody knows it's near and dear to my heart. June 1st, all the way, and they graduate. They graduate. We pay for their suits. And let me say this really quick, and Pastor and Mr. Levett. We have individuals, young men, that Mr. Levett is very familiar, because we had the 100 Black men to come in, as well as State Representative Omari come over. We have, we ask them, how many of you young men, young kids come in, they say, I don't want a suit, I don't want a suit. They say, why? And then if we ask them, when was the last time you had a suit on? They say, I don't own a suit. But then we had a set of twins, I will say this, that said, the only time that we had on a suit that we've actually worn a suit was at my mother's funeral. At my mother's funeral. So we have to, like you said, we have to expose these. We're not giving our youth the exposure that they need. And then we keep pointing the finger at everybody else. It's not a parent problem, it's not their problem, it's our problem too. Because they are in our community, and we have to make sure that we as leaders sit down, instead of whispering and talking about them, that we pull them aside and give them some guidance. And that's what my camp is about. So the information will start coming out probably next month in March, and we'll start choosing. I have 40 slots. We try to do 20 young men and 20 young ladies. All you have to do is get them to camp at 8 a.m. in the morning, and I'm a stickler because I teach making sure that they're on time. I make sure they're on time, and I have rules, and nobody can tell me how to run my camp because that comes out of my budget.
Sheriff, once the information starts coming out, they apply through your website, or
Yes, we will have it. We're going to put it on the DeKalbCountySheriff.org website. You're able to go in there, apply. And the qualification is, again, ages 9 to 16, and they just have to write a paragraph. Why do you want to attend the Boys to Men and Girls to Pearls camp? And let me tell you something. If you haven't been to that graduation or have you seen that graduation, these kids are crying. My team will tell you they're crying because they don't want to leave the friendship that they have established. Some of them come in, I don't want to come. They come in with attitudes. I tell the mom and the parents, drop them off. When you drop them off, they're mine. They're mine. But I can guarantee you, they want to come back every year. Right now, they're saying, can we come back next year? But what I do, I open it up to new youth in the community. But it's a very good camp. Go on our website, look at the graduation, and the dresses that were made for those young ladies were handmade dresses made in 2 weeks. I had my seamstress come in and make those dresses in 2 weeks. We didn't charge those kids a dime, not a dime.
Thank you. And last but certainly not least, he might be the future governor, y'all. Representative Omari Crawford for district, is it 84 or 89?
89.
89.
That's because it just changed, but it was 84. And if I ever become the... I'm sorry? When did it change? It changed during special session, November of 2023. And so I was 84, now I'm 89. So yes, November of 2023 during our special session. And I think what I just said, I think perfectly leads into the challenges that I'm going to give tonight. 2 challenges. One challenge, go onto the General Assembly website. Go on there as often as you possibly can. I think it will answer a lot of your questions. I love these type of panels, but what I have found is that at times, and there are some familiar faces in here that I see consistently, but at times what I have found is that a lot of questions that are being asked may not be applicable to what it is that we do at the General Assembly. A lot of the questions that are asked on these panels may not really consider all of the challenges that we face down at the General Assembly. So, my challenge to you, I know that a lot of times we are so occupied with what's happening in DC, and while that is important, what we do at the General Assembly directly impacts you before anything in DC will. You become civically engaged by going to the website that I gave you so you can know everything that's happening. It is in front of your face. So you don't have to think that we are doing things behind closed doors. It's very visible. You can give your complaints through emails or coming down there after you watch. That's the first. The next is my challenge, and what I have tried to do since I've been in office is expose our students, because I was once a student in DeKalb County, to politics at the General Assembly. And I have a few people up here that can attest to this. I have gone to the classrooms. I have invited hundreds and hosted hundreds of DeKalb County students down at the Capitol because I want them to understand politics. This is also my way of making them become more civically aware, but engaged. Lord willing, that I am helping a child in DeKalb County to become the next state rep, because while I love it down there, I am not trying to be the person that you have to drag out of that Capitol at age 80. I don't want to be there forever, okay? The baton was given to me by some of the leaders in DeKalb County. My job now is to take that baton, do the best that I can while I have it. That's my track reference. I used to run track at Southwest DeKalb. But take that baton and then eventually give that baton to a young student. So if you have students, groups of students, that you think may be interested in coming to the Capitol, bring them. Because what we see on a daily basis, and I'm not trying to make this a race thing, what I see on a daily basis is a lot of kids down there that don't look like us. And then those are the ones that you sit on committee with, and they will tell you that, yeah, I came down here when I was 10 years old. They were exposed, and that's how they become future chair people, future governors. So if you have some students, please let me know. I will host them. And so those are my 2 challenges.
Thank you. And just real quick, for those who would like to bring the students, just real quick, what's the process? They just show up, or?
Write down my email. It's very easy. My personal email, Omari Crawford @gmail.com.
That's the one I need.
Omari Crawford @gmail.com. I will host as many students as I can, seriously. And my Instagram, Facebook, I mean, it's replete with 1 million pictures of me and tons of students. I love hosting students down there. OmariCrawford@gmail.com. Let me know. If it's during session, great. If you want me to do it after session, I can do that too, all right? Just let me know.
Thank you. Thank you. I want to express my deepest gratitude to each of our panelists for their time, their insights, and their dedication to our community. One more time, let us give all of them a round of applause. I would like to thank each of you for coming tonight, for engaging in this important conversation and showing your commitment to DeKalb County. This town hall is just the beginning. The community, true change in the community happens when we take action. I encourage each of you to stay connected, get involved, and work together to make our neighborhoods stronger. Rainbow Park Baptist Church is here as a resource for the community. If there are any ways that we can support or collaborate with you, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. Before you leave, make sure you network with each other. There are other elected officials and people here in the community in the audience with us. Don't leave the room without getting connected to someone. Amen? Amen. We are in a church, and so we are going to close out in prayer. If we could all stand. If you will join me in prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for this gathering, this town hall on this evening. God, we lift up each of these panelists to you right now. Representative Omari Crawford, Dr. Keith Jones, Sheriff Melody Maddox, Dr. Gregory Levett, Commissioner Nicole Massiah, and Judge Caroline Freeman. God, we first ask that you put a hedge of protection around them. Let no hurt, harm, or danger come upon them. But God, we also ask that you give them wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. Give them discernment in their decision making, because the decisions they make directly affect each of us who are residents of this great county called DeKalb County here in the state of Georgia. God, we ask that those who would like to see other panelists at the next one, that you touch their hearts to attend that one so that we can continue this conversation and engage in further dialogue. God, give us traveling grace and traveling mercy until we reach our final destination. We'll be mindful to give you all the praise, all the glory, all the honor that is due your name. In Jesus Christ's name we pray. Amen. Amen. Before you all meet them, Jay's going to come and do a group picture of us.